Let me tell you about a patient named Aisha. She was 24 years old, a graduate student, active, healthy, no family history of breast cancer. One evening, completely by accident, while reaching for something on a high shelf, she felt it. A small lump in her left breast. Firm, smooth, about the size of a marble. She didn't sleep that night. By morning, she had already searched every combination of words she could think of. Breast lump. Young woman. Is it cancer? What does a breast lump feel like? She had read 40 articles and understood almost none of them. Her doctor ordered an ultrasound. The radiologist said the word fibroadenoma. Her doctor said, nothing to worry about. Don't stress. Come back in 6 months. And Aisha walked out of that clinic with a printout she couldn't understand, a diagnosis she couldn't pronounce, and absolutely no idea what was happening inside her own body. That story is not unusual. It is, in fact, the most common story I hear from young women with breast lumps. Today, I am going to change that. I am going to walk you through everything, what fibroadenoma actually is, what it looks like on imaging, what it looks like with the naked eye in the pathology lab, and exactly what we see when we place that tissue under the microscope. I am going to show you, not just tell you, what is happening inside that lump, because you deserve to understand your own body completely. I am Dr. Maya, and this is Histopath Academy, where we translate the language of pathology into something every patient deserves to understand. Let's start with the name itself, because it tells you almost everything. Fibro, meaning fibrous connective tissue. Adenoma, meaning a benign glandular tumor. Put them together, and you have exactly what this is. A benign tumor made up of both glandular epithelial tissue and fibrous stromal tissue growing together in the breast. Fibroadenoma is the most common benign breast tumor in women under 35. It accounts for the majority of breast biopsies performed in young women worldwide. In some studies, up to 25% of all women will develop at least one fibroadenoma during their lifetime. Let me say that again clearly. This is common. This is benign, and in the overwhelming majority of cases, this is not cancer and will not become cancer. But, and this is important, that does not mean you should simply ignore it. Understanding exactly what type of fibroadenoma you have, what it looks like pathologically, and what specific features your pathology report describes, that knowledge protects you. That knowledge helps you ask the right questions, and that is exactly what we are going to build today. So how does fibroadenoma present clinically? What does the patient typically experience? The classic description, and this is one you will find in every pathology and surgery textbook, is a breast mouse. That is the actual clinical term used because fibroadenoma characteristically slips away from the examining fingers. It is mobile. It moves. When a clinician or a patient feels a fibroadenoma, they typically describe it as firm, rubbery, smooth, and well-defined. It has clear borders. It does not feel fixed to surrounding tissue. It does not cause dimpling of the overlying skin. It is usually not tender. Most fibroadenomas are solitary, but in approximately 10 to 15% of cases, they can be multiple, either in the same breast or in both breasts simultaneously. They typically range from 1 to 3 centimeters in size. They grow slowly. In many cases, they remain stable for years. In younger women, they may enlarge slightly during pregnancy due to hormonal stimulation. After menopause, without estrogen stimulation, they often shrink or even calcify completely. Now let us look at what imaging shows us. On ultrasound, which is always the first imaging modality of choice in women under 35, fibroadenoma has a very characteristic appearance. We see a well-circumscribed oval or gently lobulated hypoechoic mass. The edges are smooth and well-defined. There is often posterior acoustic enhancement, meaning the sound waves pass through cleanly, which tells us the lesion is solid but homogeneous. These features give it a low suspicion BI-RADS score, typically BI-RADS 3, meaning probably benign, follow-up recommended, or BI-RADS 2 in classic cases, meaning benign finding. On mammography, used in older patients or when indicated, fibroadenoma appears as a well-circumscribed oval density, sometimes with a thin radiolucent halo around it. In older women or involuted fibroadenomas, you may see coarse popcorn calcifications, a classic radiological sign of a degenerated fibroadenoma. But imaging tells us probability. Pathology tells us truth. And that is where this story gets truly interesting. When a fibroadenoma is excised and arrives in the pathology laboratory, the first thing we do is examine it with the naked eye. This is called gross pathology examination. And in fibroadenoma, the gross appearance is one of the most satisfying in all of surgical pathology because it is so characteristic, so clean, so unmistakably itself. The specimen arrives as a discrete, well-encapsulated mass. When we place it on the cutting board and section it with the knife, and I want you to visualize this clearly, the tumor pops out of its surrounding tissue like a shelled pea. It separates cleanly from the breast parenchyma around it. This is because fibroadenoma has a true fibrous pseudocapsule, a rim of compressed tissue around it that creates that clean boundary. On the cut surface, the tumor is solid and firm. The color is typically gray-white to pale tan. The texture has a characteristic whorled or trabeculated appearance. You can see curving bands of fibrous tissue running through the cross-section. In some cases, the surface shows slightly irregular cleft-like spaces, narrow slit-like openings within the fibrous stroma. These clefts are actually compressed glandular elements, and as we will see in a moment, the relationship between these glandular elements and the surrounding stroma is precisely what defines the two major histological patterns of fibroadenoma. Size is recorded carefully. Anything approaching or exceeding 3 centimeters gets additional scrutiny. A fibroadenoma that is very large, sometimes called a giant fibroadenoma, or one that shows unusual gross features, warrants careful microscopic evaluation to exclude the possibility of a Phyllodes tumor, which we will discuss shortly. The specimen is then processed into cassettes, embedded in paraffin, sectioned at 4 to 5 micrometers, and stained with hematoxylin and eosin. And now we get to see what is truly happening at the cellular level. Under the microscope, fibroadenoma reveals a beautifully organized architecture that is fundamentally different from malignant tissue. This is important. Understanding what organized benign tissue looks like at the microscopic level helps you understand why your pathologist is confident in the diagnosis. Fibroadenoma has 2 essential components. First, the epithelial component. These are the glandular structures, the ducts and acini lined by 2 cell layers, an inner luminal epithelial layer and an outer myoepithelial layer. Both layers are present and intact. That 2-cell architecture is a critical benign feature. In invasive carcinoma, the myoepithelial layer is lost. Second, the stromal component. This is the fibrous connective tissue surrounding and compressing the glandular elements. In fibroadenoma, this stroma is hypocellular and bland, meaning the stromal cells are sparse, uniform, and show no significant atypia or mitotic activity. Now, based on the spatial relationship between these 2 components, we classify fibroadenoma into 2 classic histological patterns. Pattern 1, intracanalicular fibroadenoma. In this pattern, the stromal component is dominant. The fibrous stroma proliferates and compresses the glandular elements so forcefully that the ducts are distorted into curved, irregular, slit-like clefts. When you look at an intracanalicular fibroadenoma under the microscope, you see these elongated, compressed, crescent-shaped glandular spaces surrounded by abundant cellular stroma. The ducts appear as irregular curving lines rather than round structures. Pattern 2, Pericanalicular fibroadenoma. In this pattern, the stroma grows around the glands in a concentric fashion rather than compressing them. The glandular elements retain their round to oval shape. Their lumens remain open. The stroma surrounds each gland in rings, like layers around a core. Under the microscope, this pattern is more organized. You see round glandular spaces with clearly visible lumens surrounded by concentric fibrous tissue. In practice, most fibroadenomas show a mixture of both patterns within the same tumor. Pure intracanalicular or pure pericanalicular patterns are less common than the mixed variant. Now let me walk you through what we assess at higher magnification. The epithelial cells lining the ducts are uniform, small, and regular. Their nuclei are round to oval with evenly distributed chromatin. There is no nuclear pleomorphism, meaning the nuclei all look the same size and shape, which is reassuring. Mitotic figures are absent or extremely rare. The myoepithelial cells sit just outside the luminal epithelium. They are slightly larger, with pale, clear cytoplasm. Their presence confirms the benign nature of the glandular structures. The stroma between the glandular elements appears loose and myxoid in younger patients, almost gelatinous in texture. In older patients or long-standing fibroadenomas, the stroma becomes more dense and hyalinized, thickened and collagenous. In very old fibroadenomas, you may see calcification within this hyalinized stroma. These are the calcifications visible on mammography. There is no necrosis. There is no significant stromal cellularity. There is no infiltrative border. The tumor pushes against surrounding tissue rather than invading it. These features together, taken in their entirety, give the pathologist complete confidence in the diagnosis of fibroadenoma. Now I want to tell you about 3 important variants that your pathology report might mention. First, complex fibroadenoma. This diagnosis is made when a fibroadenoma contains one or more of the following additional features: sclerosing adenosis, epithelial calcifications, papillary apocrine metaplasia, or cysts larger than 3 millimeters. Complex fibroadenoma carries a slightly higher relative risk of subsequent breast carcinoma, approximately 3 times the general population risk, though the absolute risk remains low. If your report says complex fibroadenoma, this is worth discussing with your surgeon or breast specialist. Second, juvenile fibroadenoma. This variant occurs in adolescent girls and young women. It tends to grow rapidly and can reach large sizes, sometimes called giant juvenile fibroadenoma when it exceeds 5 centimeters. Microscopically, it shows increased stromal cellularity compared to ordinary fibroadenoma. Despite its alarming size and growth rate, it remains benign. Surgical excision is typically recommended because of size. Third, cellular fibroadenoma. This variant shows increased stromal cellularity under the microscope. The stromal cells are more numerous than in ordinary fibroadenoma, though they remain bland and show no significant atypia. This variant requires careful distinction from low-grade Phyllodes tumor, which brings me to the most important differential diagnosis in this entire topic, Phyllodes tumor. This is the diagnosis that every pathologist examining a fibroadenoma-like lesion must consciously consider and carefully exclude. Phyllodes tumor is a fibroepithelial lesion, like fibroadenoma, but with key differences that carry significant clinical implications. While most Phyllodes tumors are benign, a subset are borderline or malignant, and malignant Phyllodes tumor can metastasize. So how do we tell them apart? Clinically, Phyllodes tumors tend to occur in older patients, typically in their 40s to 50s, compared to fibroadenoma, which peaks in the 20s and 30s. Phyllodes tumors also tend to grow faster. Grossly, Phyllodes tumors can be larger. On cut section, they may show leaf-like projections into cystic spaces, which is actually what the name means. Phyllodes comes from the Greek word for leaf. Microscopically, this is where the critical distinction lies. In Phyllodes tumor, the stroma is significantly more cellular than in fibroadenoma. The stromal cells show atypia. Their nuclei are enlarged, irregular, hyperchromatic. Mitotic figures are present and countable. We count them per 10 high-power fields. The stromal overgrowth, where stroma is present without any epithelial element in a single low-power field, is a key feature of malignant Phyllodes. In contrast, fibroadenoma stroma is bland, hypocellular, and mitotically inactive. This distinction has direct surgical consequences. Fibroadenoma can be managed conservatively in many cases. Phyllodes tumor requires complete excision with clear margins regardless of grade. This is why your pathology report and your pathologist's careful microscopic assessment matters so much. So, what happens after the diagnosis of fibroadenoma is confirmed? For small fibroadenomas, typically under 2 centimeters, in young women with classic imaging features and confirmed benign pathology, active monitoring is a completely acceptable approach. Ultrasound surveillance every 6 to 12 months for 2 years is standard practice. Many fibroadenomas remain stable indefinitely. Some spontaneously regress. For fibroadenomas that are enlarging, symptomatic, large, over 3 centimeters, or that cause significant patient anxiety, surgical excision is recommended. The procedure is straightforward. The tumor's clean pseudocapsule makes it easily removable with excellent cosmetic outcomes. Non-surgical options include ultrasound-guided vacuum-assisted excision, a minimally invasive procedure where the tumor is removed through a small probe under local anesthesia. Cryoablation is another option, freezing the tumor in place, though this leaves the tissue in situ rather than removing it for complete pathological assessment. After excision, recurrence of fibroadenoma in the same breast is possible. Approximately 20% of patients develop a new fibroadenoma within 5 years. This is not recurrence of the same tumor. It reflects the underlying tendency of that patient's breast tissue to form these lesions. The risk of malignant transformation of a fibroadenoma into breast cancer is extremely low, estimated at less than 0.3%. In practical terms, a simple fibroadenoma does not meaningfully increase your risk of developing breast cancer beyond the background population risk. For Aisha, our patient from the beginning of this video, her fibroadenoma was confirmed on core needle biopsy. It measured 1.8 centimeters. Simple fibroadenoma on pathology. No complex features. No concerning imaging changes at 12-month follow-up. She chose active monitoring. She understood exactly what was in her body, and that understanding, that knowledge, transformed her anxiety into confidence. Fibroadenoma is one of the most common diagnoses a young woman can receive, and it is one of the most mismanaged, not because the medical treatment is wrong, but because the explanation is almost always insufficient. You were told benign. You deserve to know why. Now you do. If you have been diagnosed with fibroadenoma, here is what I want you to remember. Ask for your complete pathology report. Confirm whether it is simple or complex. Ask about the size and imaging stability plan. Understand your follow-up schedule. And if anything changes, size, shape, new symptoms, go back. Knowledge is not just reassurance. It is the most powerful clinical tool you have. If this video helped you today, please share it with someone who received this diagnosis and was left with more questions than answers. Subscribe to Histopath Academy for weekly pathology education that puts the science in your hands. Drop a comment below. Have you or someone you know been diagnosed with fibroadenoma? What questions did your doctor leave unanswered? I am Dr. Maya. Stay informed, stay empowered, and I will see you in the next one.